where's the chat in these? Do I have to like open up the chat? All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Ball Hawks podcast. We are live. That was like my best, Bruce Buffer or whatever it is. We are live on YouTube right now. Thank you to those of you who are watching us live. This is our first kick at the can on YouTube, so hopefully you guys enjoy that. Thank you to those of you who are going to be listening this coming Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. I am your host, Steve Fisher. You can find me on Twitter at @SSFisher87. We are a proud member of the Dean Blundell Network. You can see down in the corner there, deanblundell.com. Chris and I just got credentialed maybe a couple hours ago, so expect to see some, I don't know, what's called a meh, I guess, post to start. I guess we'll, what is it, like under promise, over deliver or something like that?
Yeah, way to sell it.
Yeah. Well, I'm really doing it just for Chris because, well, we know Chris has some bad takes. He is my co-host for a 14th straight episode. He is, this week you're going to be Cogsworth. Only because I was going to give you Lumiere, but, I'm the one that can sing clearly. So you are Chris. I like to eat bad mustard on watermelon Phillips. What's happening today, dude? Aside from that.
Hey, Steve. Happy to be here again, as always. Like you said, episode 14. I guess, can we call this the DK Metcalf episode? I don't know.
You've been waiting for that.
Yeah. Well, you took episode 12 away from me, so I guess I had to claim something for the Seahawks fans. But enough with the basic yellow mustard. I mean, we can't all afford fancy mustard. We don't all make a teacher's salary and can't go to the fancy stores with those fancy mustard tubes, whatever those are. But yeah, happy to be here. We are live. This is a new thing for us, trying it out over here on YouTube. Be sure to check us out over on Twitter as well at ballhawks_pod. You can find me on there at PhillipsChris12, and Steve forgot his again, so he is able to be found over on Twitter at SSFisher87.
Oh, that's where you weren't even listening. I totally nailed it too. And you're gonna hear it. You're gonna hear in the playback. I was right.
I wasn't listening. You're right.
Oh, we already have comments from our dudes that we podcasted with earlier this week. The boys at the PP1. we got to, I guess, be their guests on there. That was the first time I've been live. So, yes, Ryan or Ted, whoever's running it, probably Ryan. We do have a producer, so we have Braden with us. We appreciate Braden. He is also found at the ATT podcast exclusively on Spotify. So Braden is actually the second person from that podcast who has been on with us, because we had Andrew on exactly 7 episodes ago. So big shout out to Braden. We appreciate him doing this for us as our producer. So a couple crazy wild things happening in the NFL this week. Normally these are slightly the dog days of summer, I guess, right before that, June 1st, I guess, date shows up, and that's the date where you can, I guess, I haven't even really looked into this, but I think it's something about less dead money gets basically cut against people. So we'll get into that shortly. But have you seen the news on Aaron Rodgers in Hawaii right now, Chris?
I saw something about him vacationing there with his fiance. I think Miles Teller was there, who, I don't know, he's kind of that guy of Hollywood. You can't name any movie that he's in, but you see him and you're like, oh, hey, it's that guy. Yeah, I saw something about them being out there partying. I saw a recent report of Miles Teller being punched in the face in Hawaii. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe him and Aaron Rodgers had a disagreement on something, but
I did not see that. The one I saw was just him kind of, I guess, at some sort of resort, and he's just strumming away on his guitar, and I assume it's like a hotel employee is just like filming him, and you can probably guess that employee is going to lose his job probably when that gets back to their boss. But the question I had with it, and I don't need a huge elaborate answer on it or anything, but do you think this is a huge deal considering OTAs are happening right now and he is vacationing?
No.
No.
I think it's a total non-story. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been in the league for 17, 18 years, something like that. I don't think it's a story at all. He's not the only vet that's not at OTAs. I don't think any of the Seahawks vets are actually there. Russell Wilson's not at OTAs. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Chris Carson, like none of those guys are at OTAs right now either. From my understanding, it's just the rookies, the undrafted free agents that are participating in the Seahawks OTAs. So no, I don't think it's a story at all. I mean, they're voluntary, right? You don't have to be there.
Yeah, I was trying to think if I thought it was a big story or a non-story, and the only thing I can think of is I heard some reports from people that Jordan Love is starting to look pretty comfortable in that sort of first team reps. Now, Aaron comes back, he's the starter clearly, so I don't think it's overly a huge story, but you got to kind of wonder if Aaron is, I guess, even just letting the door open just a little bit for Jordan Love to make this possible, right? Like the whole idea is he didn't want to be replaced, and now he's kind of adding to the fuel to the fire a little bit here by allowing Jordan Love to take first team reps.
Again,
I can tell this is not a story for you.
No, yeah. I know we talked about this a little bit off air as well, and I was kind of like, I don't see the big deal here. Sure, let Jordan Love get those first team reps. From the sounds of things, from when we had Jay and Dave on a couple weeks ago, Jordan Love needs those first team reps because the Packers don't even view him right now as their backup to Aaron Rodgers. Right now, it sounds like Blake Bortles is going to be that guy. So, sure, let Jordan Love have those reps. Let him feel comfortable. Let him build his confidence. I mean, we all know that the NFL, it's not forever. And I'm sure Aaron Rodgers is well aware of that as well. I mean, especially after he sat on the bench for 3 years or whatever it was. So yeah, let Jordan Love get comfortable. I think it's fine. Again,
yeah, this might just be like an actual story of being like good fortune for the Packers for cashing in like on their investment in Jordan Love, right? Whether he plays, you know, a meaningful game for the Packers or not. Probably the one thing that's taking over NFL, you know, accounts, media, podcasts everywhere is the Julio Jones drama. And our guys from the PP1 there put in the chat, I saw Julio to Seattle. We'll get there. The first question I want to ask you, Chris, is I'm not sure if you actually listened to the interview or the sabotage, some people are calling it, but do you think the call with Shannon Sharpe live on air, do you think that was set up? Do you think Julio knew what was going on, or did he have no clue?
I'm sure there is a part of yes. I'm skirting the question. Yes, I think he knew. Do I think he cared? No. I mean, he clearly wants out. He said his piece. He said, "I'm done there. I want to win." I'm sure it's well known that the Falcons are ready to move on from him as well. I'm sure they've communicated that with him. So I'm sure Shannon Sharpe sent him a text being like, "Hey, I'm on air right now. I'm going to give you a call in a second. Just answer and say what you got to say." And Julio did. Can I see how maybe that it did come across as though Julio had no idea? Yeah, I mean, of course, Julio played it up really well, but that's media. I mean, if Shannon Sharpe were to do that to a guy and not give him the heads up, nobody would answer Shannon Sharpe's calls again.
Right. That's kind of like the thing everybody keeps latching on to is the fact that, you know, you're in the media, and part of being in the media is that trust with other people. And yeah, if you called somebody out of the blue and they had no idea they were on air, I honestly think, yeah, nobody's picking up the call. But then nobody's really said anything to clarify it. You know, Julio's kind of been a ghost ever since, in terms of him speaking out publicly. So like part of me still thinks, did he know that there was going to be some sort of question with his future in Atlanta? Yes. Did he know that was going to be kind of the question? And then of course, being on air, to me, that's still kind of up for debate. But I mean, the whole thing sparked from Julio wearing a Dallas Cowboys hoodie in the mall and taking a photo with a fan. So when I heard about that part of it, I kind of thought to myself, well, if he didn't know he was on air, he clearly doesn't care what people think about his situation and where he's going to be. But I mean, bottom line is Julio wants out. It is very apparent by his actions, between what he said to Shannon Sharpe, that, you know, he wanted out. So the news then shifted to, you know, what teams are interested, because clearly if a guy wants out, he's being shopped. And that's where I love this time of year, where things just blow up out of proportion. It's like, okay, who's interested? So I'm not sure who you've heard of. Obviously, we just said one with the Seahawks. That one came out kind of today, I think. The Ravens have been in the mix from the start, which is kind of fun, fun for both of us. I've heard the Patriots were a big suitor for it. I've heard that the 49ers were involved in it. And then the latest one is that the Titans have made an offer. So those are the ones I know about. But I guess the follow-up question with all of this is, what do you think his value is? Like, if you are the team that gets Julio Jones, because, you know, you asked me last week if I thought Julio was going to be traded, and I said I just can't see him playing for another team. It's funny how much a week can change things, because now I can't see Julio playing for the Falcons again. So, what do you think the price is to acquire him?
Yeah, I just want to quickly touch on that Cowboys hoodie, because didn't Shannon say shortly after, when Julio said, "I want to win," and they cued to the photo of Julio in that Cowboys jersey and said, "Well, I guess you're not going to Dallas," which I know he's listening right now. So my Uncle Ron is really going to appreciate that one, because we all know the Cowboys aren't going to do anything this year. I also want to give out a quick shout out to my other trash talkers. So my Uncle Ron, my Uncle Terry, Christian, Nigel, Craig. Thank you guys all for listening. I know you're there. You're all texting me and saying, like, "Where's my shout out?" So there it is, guys. You're right. We went from a week ago being like, you know what? I don't think Atlanta's going to get the value that they want for Julio. I think he's going to stay there. I still don't think that they get, obviously, now that he says, "I want out, I want to win," they're still not going to get the value that they need or that they should get for him. But there's no way he is in Atlanta next year. As far as value, I mean, that's a tricky one. I'm hearing.
Do you think he gets a first? Is there any chance Atlanta gets a first? And
I'm hearing.
Who?
I don't know. I'm hearing reports that the Seahawks offered a first. I'm hearing reports that the Titans. The first thing this morning, it was, the Titans are the favorites to land him, and it's going to cost a second-round pick. And then my dad was texting me that it's, the Seahawks offered a first, and then apparently the Rams are out of the running now. They decided to bow out, so maybe things got too rich for their blood. I saw another thing that it's going to take a running back plus a pick because Mike Davis isn't a starter. So it's just, I have no idea. There's so many different values being thrown all over the place. I mean, hell, if it's a running back and a pick, here's Rashad Penny in a third. I don't know. Does that get Rashad Penny was a first round draft pick. Don't forget, people. So does that get it done? I don't.
This is what I love. Value and unknown and all of these question marks, because when a guy says "I want out," you immediately think, man, you just sewered your team in getting maximum value, especially a guy like Julio, who has been quiet about everything. And it turns out he asked for a trade, or reports say that he asked for a trade months ago. So you think, okay, he's not going to get the value back for Atlanta. And then you get a bunch of teams lowballing possibly. And then it's starts a bidding war all over again. It's well, if they're going to give a third and Rashad Penny, do you really want Rashad Penny, or would you rather this second and maybe N'Keal Harry if you're the Patriots, right? That's where this all gets really, really interesting for me. I'm just reading some of the chat stuff. I agree, Ryan. How does the news get leaked out there? I had no idea it was on TV. And it looks like your uncle gave a big Cowboys hoorah in there. So welcome, Uncle, who probably wasn't a fan of me a few episodes back when I was ragging on the Cowboys.
He also he was texting me earlier about how you mentioned how he calls Twitter, "Christopher, how do I use this tweeter thing?" So he definitely remembers that one from however long ago that was.
But yeah, do we think Julio's going to get traded? Obviously, they have to wait until post June 1st to get traded. So, we'll see within the next coming week if he actually does get traded.
I don't even think it's an if. It's a when at this point.
During the week, or does it take 2 weeks? Does it take a month?
I think it'll be. It's going to be this week. That's my, I guess, my hot take. Julio is traded no later than Friday, June 4th, to wherever he is going. It's happening this week for sure.
Wow. we go from one hot take last week of me saying Tebow's going to make the 53-man roster to you saying the inevitable is going to happen. People, you heard it here first. Chris thinks Julio Jones will get traded. What a hot take from this guy.
Lukewarm take.
Lukewarm, yeah, like a mild, maybe just off cold kind of take for everybody listening. So we kind of promoted this episode by talking about we're going to go through our win-loss predictions for each team. If you're starting, Chris?
Each of our teams. We're not doing all 32 here, guys. Sorry, I'm looking for my pen. We're doing the Seahawks and the Ravens. We're not doing all 32 here. You guys would be with us all night long, which, hey, we would be happy to make that happen. But
I wouldn't be. I want to go to bed.
Yeah. Steve was cutting a bear all day today, so he's a little tired.
Yep. Do you want to start? You want me to start? What do you think?
Let's start Ravens.
Let's start Ravens. I sure. Like that attitude. The better team gets to go first. Okay. Let's do this. The 2021 Baltimore Ravens schedule starts with the Las Vegas Raiders. So we start week 1 at the Death Star. We talked about how I tried getting, or at least looking into tickets about it. Turns out they're like $800 US. And as Chris mentioned, us teachers make a ton of money. So that's why I couldn't afford to go.
Yeah, tried getting versus actually buying is two very different things.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we're starting on the road against the Raiders. That place is going to be jumping. Brand new stadium, first team in there. I still think that's an easy win for the Ravens. They start out 1-0. Week 2. They then go to, they go back home to M&T Bank Stadium, and they play a rematch of Lamar's kind of Achilles heel, I guess you would call it. The team that he can't beat, the player that he can't beat. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs go to M&T Bank Stadium. This is why I hate these things. So as a little precursor, I told Chris I don't really want to do this because part of me wants to just be like, this team's going 17-0. There we go. I say they win every game. The realist in me says until you beat a team, if you keep losing to them, I have this one down as a loss. I would love for it to be a win, start off 2-0, but until they beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, I have to give them their first loss of the season there. They then go to Detroit to play the new Lions. They might get a kneecap bitten off or two, but in the end, they're going to win with 1, 2, or no kneecaps involved. So that puts us up to 2-1. We then go on the road to Mile High Stadium. This is a game I'm actually looking at going to potentially. I don't know. I have them beating Drew Lock and the Denver Broncos. Obviously, things like this change, if Aaron Rodgers goes to Denver, like has been chatted about. So we are at 3-1 for the Ravens. They get to go back home and play a really, really, really underrated Indianapolis Colts team. The problem with this one is this is the game that I feel like was my hardest one to pick. But the defining the difference, the thing I'm holding my hat on is Carson Wentz sucks. Or at least he did last year, and I have them winning that game. So we're starting off 4-1. We get to host a second game against the LA Chargers. Justin Herbert, he's going to have that beautiful flow coming back. This is a tough one for me. I have them as a loss for this. I think the Chargers getting Derwin James back, their defense is lights out. Herbert is an absolute machine. That's a tough one for me. You got to find some losses unless you think they're going 17-0. And again, the realist in me doesn't think they will. So we're up to 4-2. We then host the Cincinnati Bengals. I know our buddy Liam is listening to this. So Liam, here's part of your mailbag question. You get a loss for this one. That was a no-brainer. Joe Burrow has no one on the line. He can try throwing it to Jamar Chase, but best of luck not destroying your knee once again. I have the Bengals losing that one. Then week 8, we have a bye, so I put on there a big win. I think having the bye right in the middle of the schedule, I love it. It's a good time to have the bye to recoup, especially if a couple of those, turn into a couple of losses and you're not sitting as pretty as what you were before. So they go into the bye. Where was it? 5-2, I guess. And then out of the bye, they host Minnesota again. So that's another reason why the bye is big. They stay at home throughout the whole bye. They're not traveling. Again, another really tough one. Minnesota's defense is going to be much improved, especially that front seven. I still have the Ravens winning that one as well. We then travel down to Miami. And I have them beating the Dolphins. That was a tougher one because I always feel like there's an upset game somewhere in the schedule. There's always something you're like, wow, I did not see them losing to that team. And you just never know if Tua takes that big step, that could be a dangerous game. They then travel from Miami to Chicago and they play the Justin Fields Bears, which QB1 Andy Dalton definitely won't be playing by week 11. He'll be lucky if he gets to play week 1. And a little fun fact about the Ravens, for anyone who doesn't know, John Harbaugh, when he is playing a rookie quarterback, I don't know what the numbers are, but I know he's got a ridiculous win percentage against rookie quarterbacks, no matter who they are. So I have them beating the Bears as well. We're on a bit of a streak here. We then play what I call the toughest part of the schedule. Now, the good news about this for Ravens fans is they are playing the Browns at home for the first game here. I do have them beating the Browns at home in week 12. They then have to travel to Pittsburgh, to Heinz, and they play the Steelers. Now, the Steelers obviously still have a really good defense. They've got so many weapons on the outside. They've added Najee Harris. This is going to be kind of a different Pittsburgh team. Who knows the health of Ben at this point? I actually have them going into Heinz and winning. So the next game, this is why I think this is the toughest part of their schedule. So they play a really tough Browns team. The Steelers games are always tough. Then they have to go to Cleveland right after that. And this is where I have a loss for them because, you've been on the road for 4 of the last 5 now. And so I have them losing to the Browns. They get to come back home to play the Packers. And again, this is all contingent. If Jordan Love is starting this and Aaron Rodgers is not a Green Bay Packer, I have a win. But unfortunately, this is the spot in their schedule. I have back-to-back losses for the Ravens. So I have them losing at home to the Green Bay Packers. They get to relinquish that bad luck by going to Cincinnati and beating up on a bad Bengals team again. So a second win, they sweep the Bengals. They then host the extra game against the Los Angeles Rams at home. So obviously before the new schedule this year, you got 8 on the road, 8 at home. This year they get 9 at home and 8 on the road. And this is the final 9th game. I have them beating the Rams. This is another one of those swing games where, if Stafford starts to figure it out with his new team, That could be a really tough game. Obviously, the Rams have a ridiculous defense. Stafford is so much better than Jared Goff. So if there was a swing game that could go either way, I think that would be another one of them. And then they end the season against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And just like their previous matchup, I will never pick the Pittsburgh Steelers to win a game. I don't care if my team just came off an 0-17 season versus a 17-0 season. I pick the Ravens to beat the Steelers every single time. So that's a grand total of 13 wins, 4 losses. I'm thinking that's good enough for first in the AFC North. They have a 5-1 divisional record. This is the weird part. When I actually calculated how many home, how many away games they won and lost, according to my predictions, they would have a 7-1 road record, which would be pretty wild, and just to a 6-3 home record. So, that's where I have the Ravens this year, 13-4. What do you have for the Seahawks, Chris? Oh, I just have to interrupt. Terry said go Steelers, and I probably earned that one. So.
Yeah, that is my uncle, the Steelers fan, who has commented that he A, hates the Ravens, and B, go Steelers. Which
I don't believe a Steelers fan who says like, we're cool with the Ravens. No, you're not. We hate you. You hate us. I respect the hell out of that organization, but man, there is no pro sports team that I dislike and actually physically hate more than the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I love it. Keep the Go Steelers stuff going.
Funny story. I also hate the Steelers, but that's again, story for another day. I have alluded to that a few times, and I am still not ready to talk about it. But yeah, so 13-4, you said, hey? So predicting a pretty good season for your Ravens, probably winning their division, or at least battling for that. Probably one of the top 2 seeds in the AFC. Them and the Chiefs. So should be pretty interesting season. I definitely look forward to seeing how that all plays out. Please don't delete whatever you wrote down, because I'll do the same. Let's compare at the end of the year. We both did the same thing with our mock draft, and I really, really sucked on my mock draft. So hopefully I do better with my record prediction. Week 1, the Seahawks also start on the road, like your Ravens. We start on the road in Indianapolis versus the Colts, which you said they're one of the most underrated teams, which I would have to disagree with, because Carson Wentz is trash and has actually never beat the Seahawks. He's 0-4 versus the Seahawks. So I am going to chalk this up as a W, week 1 win. I don't think it's going to come easy. They're going to have to battle. I mean, cornerback is definitely a position for the Seahawks that is, I don't know, a little bit in question, I guess, right now, until we actually see them on the field and see how they perform in preseason. It's a little uncertain, I would say. And the Colts certainly have some good receivers, but they still have that trash quarterback. So we'll see what happens. I'm picking the Seahawks. I'm going to say Russell Wilson, late 4th quarter, probably last drive to win that one. Week 2, the Seahawks are traveling back home to Lumen Field, no longer CenturyLink. It is now Lumen Field versus Christian's Tennessee Titans. And Christian, I'm not sorry. I am taking the Seahawks to win that one as well. Like I just mentioned about the Seahawks with their questions at cornerback, while the Titans have no wide receivers left anymore except for A.J. Brown. So we'll just put all 4 cornerbacks on that one wide receiver, not worry about anybody else, and then just stop Derrick Henry. So, which Bobby Wagner will do that no problem, I'm sure.
I didn't know he was a Titans fan, or else I would have probably got into it a little more. But
oh yeah, Christian is the resident Titans fan here. So yeah, we have a Titans fan, a Steelers fan, and a Cowboys fan listening right now.
Bengals fan.
Yeah, and a Bengals fan. Yeah, exactly. Week 3, back on the road. We're heading to Minnesota. We're playing the Vikings. And this is where I see Seattle taking their first loss of the year. Again, I'm just going back to those cornerbacks, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson. Yikes. So and Dalvin Cook. So that's definitely a monster that I'm nervous about. I know Seattle beat Minnesota last year in Seattle, but it took 2 4th-down conversions to win that game, including the game-winning touchdown coming on a 4th-down conversion to my boy DK Metcalf, episode 14, the DK Metcalf episode. So this game being in Minnesota as well, I'm going to give that one to the Vikings. Week 4, we are still on the road. This time we are heading to the West Coast. We're going to the San Francisco 49ers, and I am taking the Seahawks to win this game because I fully predict that Jimmy Garoppolo will still be the quarterback of the 49ers in week 4. And I've never seen a guy so uncertain and nervous in the pocket as I've seen Jimmy Garoppolo. Like he's got the Jimmy legs in the pocket. And I'm pretty sure he just closes his eyes and throws the ball. So that's a win there. So we're 3-1 after 4 weeks. Week 5 back at home versus the Rams. Craig, I don't know if you're listening, but if you are, I am taking your Rams to win this game. Again, the Rams, I mean, Christ, we all know about their defense. I mean, Aaron Donald is a game wrecker. And I was talking to Dave from the Pass the Cheese podcast on Twitter earlier today about the Seahawks offensive line. I'm confident going into this season. I'm happy with what they've done. But Aaron Donald is just a whole different beast. Jalen Ramsey, he shut down my boy DK. I think both games last year. And then again, their offense with Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. Sorry, I drew a blank there for a second. Deshaun Jackson. Their wide receivers are so good. And then adding Matt Stafford into the equation. I'm not going to say Matt Stafford is head and shoulders above Jared Goff. Again, we've had this discussion. Matt Stafford was blessed with Megatron for many, many years, but he is better than Jared Goff. I will give him that. Week 6, we're back on the road. We are heading out east. This is the Seahawks extra game versus the Steelers in Pittsburgh. And Uncle Terry, I am not sorry for this one. The Seahawks are winning this game. I'm not worried about Big Ben and his noodle arm. The guy's got nothing left in the tank there. Week 7, back at home, we're playing the Saints. Who's a quarterback? I don't know. Is it Taysom Hill? Is it Jameis Winston? I don't care. Seahawks are winning. Week 8, we've got the Jaguars. They're coming into Seattle on Halloween. Tony Khan's probably going to dress up as the most desperate guy in town. Always. Tony Khan knows nothing other than to be desperate. And again, I'm chalking that one up as a win for my Seahawks. Trevor Lawrence in Seattle dealing with the 12s. I don't think he's going to be able to handle that noise. Week 9, Seahawks bye. So going into the bye, What is that? 2 losses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 wins. So 6-2 heading into that week 9 bye. Like you said, I love that mid-season bye, especially with that extra week added in this year. The kind of later we can get it, the better. When the schedule is released every year, I always kind of look at like, okay, who's the first matchup, home or road? Okay, who's the first home matchup if the first matchup is on the road? How many primetime games? And then I also just like to see like, okay, where's the bye? Okay, week 9, yeah, I'm happy with that. Week 10, we're on the road. After that bye, we traveled to Green Bay, Wisconsin versus the Packers. Dave and Jay, I know you're listening. You're going to be happy to hear this. I am giving the Seahawks the L on the road versus the Packers. Russell Wilson's never won in Green Bay, which I always find kind of bizarre because he played quarterback at Wisconsin. So I don't know what it is about Lambeau, but he just can't get it done in Lambeau.
It's those stupid bench seats. He looks up, just can't get into them, right?
Absolutely, the bench seats. Good call. After the Packers, we go back home. We play the Cardinals. Week 11, I'm giving the Seahawks their also only back-to-back loss here. So week 11, I at home versus the Cardinals, I have the Seahawks losing. Those Cardinal games, man, they're always so bizarre. You just never like. I mean, last year it went to overtime in Arizona. It was almost. I mean, Christ, the game almost was over before. Russell Wilson threw the interception to Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons set them up for the game-winning field goal. But, I mean, a couple years ago in Arizona, they tied. There's the game in Seattle. I want to say 2018 maybe. Arizona won in Seattle. And, they had their backup quarterback doing a dance on the sideline as some Joe Nobody scored a touchdown, but it just I never trust those Cardinals games. Going into those Cardinals games, I always have my stress levels are extra high. Washington football team in Washington, Seattle wins. Week 13, back at home versus the 49ers. I'm going to say this is they're playing Trey Lance this time, and they still win because I screw the Niners, and the Seahawks aren't going to lose to them. Week 14 in Houston. I'm giving this one to Seattle as well. Now, this one's a little bit curious. I mean, of course, it all depends who the quarterback is for Houston. Assuming it's not Deshaun Watson, I give this win to Seattle. If it is Deshaun Watson, I still give the win to Seattle. Week 15, back-to-back road games. We are traveling to LA. We're playing the Rams. I see the Seahawks losing this game as well. So we are losing the season series versus the Rams this year. Week 16 versus the Bears. Justin Fields should absolutely be the starter by this point if he's not the starter in week 1, as he should be. That is a win for Seattle. Again, rookie quarterback in Seattle. I'm taking Seahawks. Week 17 versus the Lions in Seattle. Jared Goff is no good and has no receivers to throw to this time, and doesn't have Todd. Well, he might have Todd Gurley as his running back. Who knows? But the Seahawks are also winning that one. And finally, Week 18 in Arizona to close out the regular season. I actually had the Seahawks winning in Arizona. So the Cardinals win in Seattle. The Seahawks win in Arizona. I had the Seahawks finishing off the season with a 12-5 record.
12-5. Where do you think that puts them in the division?
NFC West. I mean, 1 or 2 for sure. I think they're going to be battling the Rams this year for top spot. It's going to be close. I I don't think they're going to be number one in the conference. So they're not going to get that bye regardless. So I guess just try to win the NFC West and try to get that home playoff game and hope for the best, which didn't work out in their favor this year.
Yeah, I was just reading some of the comments. There's a varying level of what they think is going to happen. Clearly, with the 13-4, I'm getting laughed at for that. That's okay. And Go Cowboys has the Seahawks at 7-10. So I think the interesting thing about these win-loss records is you can be the most level-headed, thinking only with your head fan, but like when it's my team that I'm picking, the Steelers, is there a good chance that they lose one? Well, yeah, I mean, they lost 2 of them last year to the Steelers. Is there a good chance they win one? Yeah, but I'm never going to pick that. So I always think these predictions, you overshoot your own team slightly, which is totally fine. Like, I'm never going to come on to a live recording and be like, yeah, the Ravens are going to go 1-16. We'll be lucky to beat the Bengals. I'm just never going to see stuff like that. So, yeah, hopefully your uncle's right. Why play the season? We might just have to have a Ravens Seahawks Super Bowl. If that happens, Chris and I might not be doing the podcast any longer after.
I was gonna say the same thing. Like a Seahawks Ravens Super Bowl, that's gonna end the podcast. So
yeah, the Ball Hawks podcast.
I mean, I would love to see the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. Obviously, not the Ravens. Never the Ravens. But if you guys want to keep hearing us, I guess let's hope for a non-Ravens Seahawks Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, a non-Ravens Super Bowl.
Oh yeah.
No.
Well, I mean, it's only happened twice in their franchise, and they won both of them. So let's hope that they don't get back there, because it's an automatic win every time they make it to the Super Bowl. Chris, you sent me a little infograph thing where we're going kind of next with this, and it was who do you think the first coach to get fired is going to be? Do you have that one up there, Braden?
Yeah.
Here we go. So we have a fan favorite in Mike McCarthy, Vic Fangio coming in second, Matt Nagy third, John Gruden, and then Mike Zimmer. So when I saw this, the first thing I thought of is Jerry Jones holds on to coaches well past where they possibly should. I think the Cowboys are going to be pretty good this year. So hopefully Uncle will be happy with that comment. I know their defense is just in shambles, but that offense is just too darn good. Like you can't bet against them. I think they would be much better without Mike McCarthy. I think he's very overrated and actually a bad coach. And of all of these guys, I think it's Matt Nagy will be the first one. Part of you wants to say like, well, maybe he'll get a little bit of grace period with starting QB1 Andy Dalton first and then slowly transitioning Justin Fields. But you got to think that this guy has hung his hat on Mitch Trubisky and now another quarterback, and it's cost them big capital to move up for both of them. So if you don't see immediate results out of the Bears, I see Matt Nagy being the first one fired. Who do you think?
I think Nagy is definitely a great choice, especially if they come out of training camp and Andy Dalton is still QB1. He should be fired right after the preseason, before the regular season even starts, for not naming Justin Fields the starting quarterback. I'm going to go Mike Zimmer.
Oh,
yeah. I saw today the Vikings were actually trying to move up to number 8 to actually acquire Justin Fields as well. So that raises all kinds of red flags surrounding Kirk Cousins. So if the Vikings get off to a slow start, which I would have to pull up their schedule. I don't know if you have that handy there, Braden, the Minnesota Vikings schedule. But if they get off to a slow start, I could see Zimmer getting the can because no fault of his, probably the GM's fault, but they weren't able to get Justin Fields and weren't able to get that new QB1. But yeah, we've got the season there. So they start versus the Bengals, so that's probably an easy win. But then they've got the Cardinals, the Seahawks, which I actually already picked the Vikings to win that game, the Browns, the Lions, the Panthers. So I don't know. I guess maybe they actually have an easier schedule to start than I realized. But then they've got after the Panthers, they've got the Cowboys, they've got the Ravens, the Chargers, the Packers, the Niners. And so, yeah, I'm sticking with it, though. I'm going to say Mike Zimmer.
I think it's such a crapshoot with this kind of stuff of who's going to get fired. It depends so much on those interpersonal things, and it depends on owners and GMs and how quick they are to fire and how, is there an injury that's causing this stuff that might get them to hold on to it? With Mike McCarthy, obviously Dak going down, you knew Jerry Jones wasn't going to pin any of a bad season on Mike McCarthy. So yeah, a lot of those things come down to what's happening in the moment for the most of it. And we've got a little bit of a back and forth here on our YouTube. I think these two guys are drunk on wins, apparently, because both teams are blowing up on wins. And
actually, I just want to add then, as far as coaches being fired, from that list, I'm surprised that McCarthy has the lowest odds. I would say with Dak coming back, Zeke is there, Amari is there, CeeDee Lamb is there. I would say McCarthy is probably one of the safer of those 5, just based on Dak coming back.
True. All right, let's move on. We have our favorite segment of our listeners. We have our third down. What do you have for me this week, Chris?
Yeah, it's third down, everyone's favorite segment of the show. Sorry, I'm just texting you there. Everyone's favorite segment of the show. We all know how this works. For anyone that's new to the show here, the third down segment, I give Steve some head-to-head matchups. Steve picks his favorite of the head-to-head matchup. At the end of it, I review his choices and ask him to pick his MVP. So this week, we actually have some help from our good friend, Liam. He reached out to me the other day and said, hey, I really think, if you're struggling with third down, if you need an idea, I have a really good one. I said, well, I'm never struggling with a third down, but I'm always willing to take on, our listeners' ideas. So anybody else, please reach out to me. I'm always happy to include your thoughts there. Anyways, Liam's idea was to do a head-to-head matchup based on some of the worst hairstyles, haircuts in sports and pop culture history. So we've got some really, really good ones here. I'm really excited to share these. Of course, with us doing this live, I've hooked up with Braden to provide him with some photos so that we can also provide some visuals for all you guys. So Steve, of course, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. Matchup 1, we have Tim Tebow with his Friar Tuck haircut after rookie camp versus Garo Yepremian. I'm sure I mispronounced that, but look at that guy with his glorious cul-de-sac, but those sideburns, my goodness. Steve, Tim Tebow versus Yepremian. Who are you choosing?
I mean, one of the names I didn't even know the one person existed. And part of me doesn't want to try to say the name, but man, that is one hell of an ugly haircut. Like, for all of the people that are going to be listening on the podcast, we have a guy who probably in like the 60s, 70s range. He has got a fuzzy, furry, big, oh my god! I don't even know how to describe this. It's definitely like the top is gone, but there's still a little bit of like fuzz, like he's holding on to the hope it might grow back at some point. And then the bottom part is like this scraggly hair, and the chops are like just all toughed out. So I'm going with this guy here. I don't even remember what his name was.
Yepremian. He was a member of the if I'm not mistaken 72 Dolphins.
Okay.
Yeah, he threw a pick. He was the kicker, but he threw a pick six in the in the Super Bowl that year. Luckily, it didn't cost the Dolphins their perfect season.
Yeah, I'm picking that dude. That is ugly. I love it.
Yeah, I think that's a great choice. Matchup 2. We have Dennis Rodman, and I mean, there's so many different hairstyles that we could have chosen for Rodman. Versus, now this is another guy you've never heard of, Antonio Garay. I had never actually. Look at that guy. I had never heard of this guy until I was like YouTube or Googling worst hairstyles in sports history. And I came up on this guy who was apparently a D tackle in the NFL, played for the Jets, played for, as you can see, the Chargers. And yikes. I don't know how you choose between these two.
So again, for the people just listening on podcast, we obviously know what Rodman is and just pick one of his wild styles. The other guy kind of reminds me of like I guess teal green / black version of Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yeah.
So, like the wrestling kind of, Chris and I have been chatting wrestling a little bit here. That's the first thing I thought of was like, man, that's Bam Bam Bigelow. I'm like, oh, wait a second. That's a football player. But Dennis Rodman is the first person I thought of immediately when you said wild hairstyles for an athlete. And the fun thing about Dennis Rodman is there's just so many to choose from. I'll go with Rodman on this one.
I'm not surprised because Rodman and his hairstyles are so iconic. But Bam Bam Bigelow, that's a great take. They're not tattoos. He shaved that into his hair, so it's ever changing. But oh man, yeah. Thank you, Braden, for zooming in on that one. That's just awful. Matchup 3, we have the Battle of the Mullets. So we have Brian Bosworth. Yeah, look at that thing. I mean, look at that guy. Not good at football, but great hair. Versus, I had to include this one after the fade cut, Al Iafrate.
So for anyone who did not happen to watch our PP1 versus Ball Hawks video. We do have it on our YouTube channel here. And Rob Fay decided he would do a little color commentating for it. And when Chris had no hat on, he referred to Chris as Al Iafrate. And it's so true. Oh, this is a tough one because there it is. Your uncle just put better have Bosworth in the mix, and I was like, yeah, it'll come in there somewhere. Yeah, I gotta go with Al Iafrate. Like, that is so it's got like the nice curly long ringlets at the back. If from the front you couldn't tell that there was nothing on top, so he could have fooled some people being like, there's party in the front and the back, but just not on the top. So there's a close up of Al Iafrate. And also, I mean, look at the shot total on that. Like, he probably lost his hair because he was shooting so damn hard. Like, it probably just came right off his damn head.
Yeah, it's the classic Halo look, which as I just showed everybody live, I am also getting my Halo, so hopefully get my wings as well soon. Next matchup, we have we're going overseas. We're going to football. The other football. Ronaldo, and I don't know what he was thinking here, but my goodness, that looks like I remember when I was playing junior lacrosse, and the vets on the team cut my hair for rookie initiation. Think this haircut. That's kind of what I had. Versus Mike Commodore, the old classic ginger fro. I remember when I think it was after the Flames lost the Stanley Cup to the Lightning in 2004. I was working at Earl's in Kelowna at the time, and somebody came in, looked exactly like Mike Commodore. And I remember going up to him and being like, are you Mike Commodore? Like, he had the big red fro, the beard, everything. And he put on I'm convinced, 100% sure it was him, but he put on a fake Russian accent. And he was like, no, no speak English.
Yeah, that's probably the worst Russian attempt of an accent I've ever heard in my life. So
yeah. I'm not surrounded by Russians like Mike Commodore is.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking just wild, then we're talking Brazilian Ronaldo here, by the way, everybody. It looks like he kind of just took like missing triangles to the sides of his head. But I love the ginger fro. He's got the ginger beard to match it. He's got the Stanley Cup playoff patch there, so he was growing it out for the run. I always want, like, I just cut my hair this weekend, but I've had quite a healthy head of hair playing hockey myself, and the bucket gets a little tighter every once in a while. And then I look at guys who have hair like this is a massive afro, and I just wonder, like, how tight that bucket is on his head when he's wearing that. I'm going to go with Mike Commodore, especially since you clearly met the Russian version of him.
That surprises me. But I mean, just throw a little bit of water in that. Bucket's going to fit on there. No problem.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, again, for everyone to see, I mean, helmets fit on this head, no problem. At least the hair doesn't get in the way. Yeah. Last matchup, I said this was a sports / pop culture feature. So this next matchup, we dive into the pop culture. I've got Carrot Top and his gorgeous red hair versus, making his first appearance on the Third Down, folks, Steve the Teacher Fisher.
There we go. Oh, what a thing of beauty that is. So
Which is when you were just talking about how you just recently cut your hair and you had a good head of hair. I was just like, oh, this is perfect. Here we go. Here is Steve with his gorgeous something head of hair, folks.
So for everybody listening, maybe I'll go find that and I'll post it to Ball Hawks here. I know it's on my Facebook. So last year when we were teaching from home, we thought of creative ways to, stay connected with not only students, but with staff members. And so every week we actually had a theme week. And so whoever won the week before got to choose what was going on the next week. So my good buddy, Andrew, he asked me, what should we do? And we've got another friend who listens to the podcast every single week, John, and we made a Dress Like John Day. And I clearly went all out for it. I won the week. I think I won like a $20 Dairy Queen gift certificate. I kind of even forget who. This is such a great picture. I forgot who the first person was. So, yeah. Well, good God. It's not even a competition between me and Carrot Top, but I do see where you were going with this. You have a lot of like gingers on here, and I'm picking myself. Screw the rest of you guys. I'm picking myself to win here. I never win the third down, so guess who's going to win now?
I knew you were picking yourself. Thank you again to Liam, not only for the idea of worst hairstyles, but also for pairing Steve up against Carrot Top. Braid moves that fast enough. I mean, it's basically the same guy.
Pretty much.
Quick rundown here. You have Yepremian, Dennis Rodman, Al Iafrate. You have Mike Commodore, and you have yourself. However, wrinkle into the rules here. You can't pick yourself as your MVP. Who's the MVP, Steve?
Yeah, that's funny. I wasn't even going to pick myself. I pick Dennis Rodman because he is notorious for the wild hair. I mean, I have great hair. We all know it. We saw it, but you can't compete with the icon that is Dennis Rodman. I've been looking at the YouTube chat, just waiting for Christian to be like, where is Derrick Henry in this hair? Like the burnt turd coming out of his head did not make this third down episode. I am shocked. I am offended for Christian that Derrick Henry's giant turd was not a part of the third down. So, yeah, that was a fun one. That's hilarious. I kind of thought you were going somewhere with it when you said Liam had a little hand in this, and I thought, yeah, there's going to be something definitely to this one. So we're coming up on the end of our episode here, and we wanted to get to we'll do our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram mailbag questions first, and then if anyone in our YouTube chat has a question, we can answer those. So I'm actually going to give you the first question because it's a little NFC West stuff here. So our buddy, you know him as Mr. Teller on Twitter, Marquise from the Cover 4 podcast, who listens every week. He's always interacting with us. He says, do you guys see Trey Lance becoming the starter this year over Jimmy G? I know you said yes by the second time they play him, but when do you think?
I mean, I've been pounding this drum all off season. I know I said in week 4 that Jimmy Garoppolo will still be the starting quarterback, but I have been pounding this drum all off season. I think the Niners coaching staff, management, whatever, are insane if they don't have Trey Lance as their starting quarterback week 1. So do I see him as surpassing Jimmy Garoppolo as the starting quarterback at some point this season? Yes, I do.
Yeah, and if you guys go way back to our mock draft episode, way back before the draft, Chris actually said that as well, because I had Trey Lance going to the Niners and said he could groom under Jimmy G, and you definitely said that right from the start. He had a follow-up question here. So it says, since the Falcons are moving on from Julio for cap reasons and most likely have to restructure Grady Jarrett, or do they move him also and build assets? I don't think they're moving Grady Jarrett anywhere. This kid is young. He is by far the best player on that very horrible defense. So I don't see them moving him. I think the reason why they want to move, or they don't want to move Julio, but the reason why they're talking about it is because it's the easiest solution to their problem. They just have to trade one guy. They get the most assets since he is an absolute game changer.
Charging battery.
You know, I don't see them trading Grady Jarrett. Restructure, maybe. He's probably the best candidate, but I think I was listening to a podcast saying that if they do restructure him, a really strong possibility that's not enough cap space to, again, sign those rookies that they can't. So I think they're moving Julio for assets, but Grady Jarrett, I would be thoroughly shocked if they move on from him. Our next question comes from our buddy Ryan Hank of the PP1 podcast, and he says, does Chris have permission to speak? No, he doesn't. I'll answer that one for you. He is allowed to speak when spoken to. And the follow-up question to that, he's going to love this one. Where does passing the ball rank in all-time worst plays? You know the one.
Braden, can you please pull up...
you had something planned with Braden. Oh, come on.
No, I didn't actually. I'm putting Braden on the spot here. Russell Wilson, Super Bowl 49. I'm sure the first image that you see is going to be him throwing. I'm going to talk while you're working on that. It was the right call. It was the right call. It was second down. I don't remember how much time is left on the clock. I want to say, I don't know, 35 seconds or something like that. That's not the photo. Sorry, Braden. Just put Russell Wilson interception, Super Bowl 49. It was the right call. There was 35 seconds left. I think they had one timeout left. It was second down. You have to throw that ball in that situation. Because, I mean, obviously, best case scenario,
coming up. Just hanging his head.
Show the Richard Sherman face. Best case scenario is obviously the Seahawks score a touchdown. Worst case scenario is what happened. But in the middle there it's an incomplete pass and the clock stops. So then on third down, they can try to punch the ball in with Marshawn Lynch. If that's unsuccessful, they call the timeout. They run another play on fourth down. So no, it wasn't the worst play call in NFL history. It was very, very poorly executed. Jermaine Kearse didn't get the pick. Ricardo Lockett, I mean, Christ, he didn't even make a play on the ball. But even, I'm going to include Russell Wilson in fault in this. He didn't make a good throw. He threw it too far ahead of Ricardo Lockett to even make a play on the ball. So no, not the worst play call in NFL history, just the probably worst executed play call in NFL history.
And clearly by Chris's voice, he is still not bitter about that.
Honestly, I will fully admit the next day I went to work and everyone's like, oh, like, I mean, everyone knew where I worked at that time that I'm a Seahawks fan. And they're like, Chris, I'm so sorry, and this and that and the next thing. And I looked at them straight in the face and I said, I don't want to talk about it. Don't talk to me about the Super Bowl. I don't want to talk about it.
I'm taking the ball and I'm going home, okay?
Guys. I probably shouldn't have gone to work the following day. But however many years later, it is what it is.
That's so funny.
Thank you, Braden.
It is.
Yeah.
Got a video of it. Malcolm Butler jumping it.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it's whatever. I mean,
it's so funny. As you were saying that, Chris, I remember thinking about this, obviously as an unbiased fan, I had no stake in the game. And I thought to myself, you know what, maybe it was the wrong decision to throw at that time potentially, but like you could, the way the game, the timeouts, the time, what down it was, you had the option to run once and probably pass. So like if they didn't do it there and they ran Marshawn on the 1 yard line, who knows, maybe the same play happens the very next play and they say, well, they had to throw it. So I agree with that. I'm actually going to go back to our YouTube live questions. And your uncle says, who do you think will be MVP when the Cowboys win the Super Bowl? So since we're in fantasy land here, I think this is a great question. I love these hypotheticals about who would be the MVP, and the obvious answer is Dak Prescott because quarterbacks obviously win a bunch. I would go with CeeDee Lamb though. I think there's a guy who can turn it up in big games, and I would call CeeDee Lamb to be the MVP.
I'm going to say whoever the Cowboys were playing against because the Cowboys lost in the Super Bowl. So some guy from the other team.
Well, it says the Cowboys win the Super Bowl. Read the question, Chris. Come on.
No.
My apologies. Chris can't read. That's why I read the questions for us. This one came from our friend Calvin. And this wasn't much of a question as it was, I think, probably wanting to stir the pot. And I threw it right back to Chris on this one. So this is back to, obviously, we were chatting with them about who's going to sign Julio. And he said, Ravens versus Seahawks bet if either team signs Julio. So I don't know if you had a chance to think about that one. Do we have some sort of bet here?
No, I did see that. First of all, I want to
buzzkill, isn't he, guys?
I want to correct your wording. It's not signing Julio; it's trading for Julio. Honestly, I don't think he ends up with either team. So, do I want to make a bet that he ends up with the Ravens or the Seahawks? No, because I don't think he ends up with either one of those teams. I honestly think he ends up in Tennessee. So,
okay. Well, you're at least appealing to one fan over here. Our apologies, Calvin. I guess Chris is too much of a wimp. To make a bet about that. So,
if you want to make a bet where Seahawks Ravens versus the field, and I take the field, sure, but I don't think he's ending up with either one of our teams.
All right, I'll think about that. Actually, we'll post it on our Twitter and Instagram if we decide to make a bet. I think by the sounds of it, the Titans seem to be the front runners right now. That doesn't usually or always mean everything. So we have one more question. This one came via Facebook. So if you guys on YouTube have any questions, throw them in there, or this will be our last question. So Liam has asked, what is the over-under with, what are you picking? 6.5 wins for the Bengals. What's your over-under on that one, Chris? That's a great over-under. I don't know if he was looking at Vegas betting odds, but I'm having a tough time with this one, actually.
It is. I looked at the Bengals schedule. So here's where I have the Bengals winning. I have the Bengals beating Jacksonville, Chicago, Detroit, the Jets, the Broncos, and that's it. As far as like when I look at their schedule and like quick off the top of my head, here's who I have them winning. So that's 5 wins. So I'm taking the under.
Yeah, I also would take the under, and just for the simple fact that they have to play the Ravens twice, they have to play the Browns twice, and even the Steelers with I would say that's a declining kind of team, whether you believe that 11-0 start was legit or not. They still have to play the Steelers. The Steelers are still a strong team. I would also take the under on that, actually. Now, here's a really good, I don't think you saw these, Chris, but here's a really good one. Your over-under is set at 3.5. How many footballs get popped when Tebow catches them and forgets to unflex?
Under, because Tim Tebow's not making the Jaguars. So under 0 balls.
So if you guys didn't tune in last week, we had Hot Take Steve jumping in, and my hot take is not a lukewarm or off cold take like Chris's, and I actually predict Tebow will make the Jaguars 53-man roster. And you know what? I'm going to go over on this one. I think the guy's arms are just massive. He might even just catch one. Look at that. Look at that guy. A guy that is sporting the ring around his head, but now with muscles, he might just trip and fall on the ball and pop it. So I do have Tebow making the 53-man roster, and he will pop at least 1 ball.
Deflategate 2.0.
Yeah, if they're deflated just a little bit. Okay, we are pretty much at a time now, so I don't see any other questions in our YouTube feed. I just want to thank everybody who joined in on our first ever live episode on YouTube there, especially to those of you that were commenting and chirping us a little bit. It makes it a lot of fun when we can interact, and again, I don't want to hear a Steelers fan saying like, "Oh, great picks, Ravens." Like, I want you saying "Go Steelers." So, really appreciate that. We also appreciate Braden for his time and for hosting us on YouTube there and showing the picture of Carrot Top versus me. It was a home run for me on that one. Again, we are part of the Dean Blundell Network. You can find us there, deanblundell.com. We are going to be blogging there pretty soon, so you can come and check out some of our work there. You can find me on Twitter at ssfisher87. And like I do every week, I'm going to give my dude Chris the last word. What do you have for us, buddy?
Yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in live. Thank you for the live chat. It's been something. Braden, thank you. We really appreciate you coming on. If you guys haven't heard of the ATT podcast, Alien Theorizing, Braden, I probably botched that, and I apologize. Go check them out on exclusively on Spotify. Go check out the Ball Hawks podcast. We are everywhere. We are on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts. We are there. Follow us on Twitter at ballhawks_pod. And of course, as always, go Hawks.